Welcome to the channel Brazilian National Football Team Forever. Here we talk about the glorious past of the Brazilian national team, but we also talk about the stories that every Brazilian wants to forget, like the 1982 World Cup. Today we will try to answer a question that still hurts in many hearts. Why did the team considered the best of all time fail in the 1982 World Cup? Get ready for a deep journey, not only through the facts, but also through the emotion of a generation that believed that artistic football would conquer the world. At the end of the 1970s, Brazilian football was going through a turbulent period. After the third World Cup title in 1970, the Brazilian national team did not shine in 1974 and 1978. In 1978, the campaign was decent, but it ended without a title. The fans' expectations were no longer the same, and artistic football seemed to have been swallowed by European pragmatism. But in 1982, everything felt different. Under the command of Telê Santana, Brazil regained its lost magic, Telê believed. In talent above all, his philosophy was clear: to win by playing beautifully, to win by enchanting. The 1982 team is regarded by many as the most talented ever assembled, a team that combined technique, intelligence, and boldness. Let's remember some of the key names. Zico, the maestro. Sócrates, the thinker on the field. Falcão, the balance between defense and attack. Cerezo, energy and class. Éder, with his powerful shots. Júnior, a modern and attacking fullback. Leandro, perhaps the best right back in Brazil's history. Oscar and Luizinho in defense. Valdir, pairs in goal. Serginho as the striker. Was it a complete team? Technically, yes. But it was also a team that exposed itself, a team that played forward, unafraid to take risks. Brazil was placed in Group 6, alongside the Soviet Union, Scotland, and New Zealand. In the debut, a difficult win against the Soviets by 2-1, with a stunning goal by Éder in the final minutes. Then, 4-1 against Scotland, and 4-0 against New Zealand. 3 victories. Enchanting football. The world fell in love with that team. International newspapers wrote, "Football has returned to being art." In the second round, the 1982 World Cup did not have quarterfinals. There were groups. And Brazil fell into a true group of death. Brazil, Argentina, and Italy. Brazil versus Argentina. A 3-1 victory. Total domination. Maradona was sent off. Zico put on a show. Sócrates was cerebral. Then came the match that would go down in history. Brazil versus Italy. A game that would forever change Brazilian football's Sarriá Stadium. Barcelona. Bright sun. Brazil had the advantage of a draw. Italy needed a win. But what we saw was a Brazilian team that didn't know how to play for a draw. Maybe didn't even want to. Italy opened the score with Paolo Rossi in the 5th minute. Brazil equalized with Sócrates. Rossi scored again. Brazil tied once more with Falcão. Rossi, the executioner, scored the 3rd. Then the game became dramatic. Brazil pressed. Zico, Sócrates, Éder, Falcão. They tried, but couldn't break through the Italian catenaccio. End of the match. Italy 3, Brazil 2. End of the dream. The 1982 team failed for many reasons, and all of them are still debated to this day. First, lack of tactical balance. It was a team that attacked too much and defended too little. It played with heart. But sometimes in World Cups, you also need to play with your head. Second, Paolo Rossi, the Italian striker, had returned from suspension shortly before the Cup. He was discredited. But that afternoon in Barcelona, he was reborn as a lethal striker. Third, Serginho. Many question whether he was the right striker. Some say the team needed a more technical attacker to interact with the midfielders. Fourth, substitutions. Telê Santana was criticized for not making changes earlier. Zico was tired, Éder had vanished, and the coach was slow to act. Fifth, lack of craftiness. Brazil had pure football. They didn't make tactical fouls, they didn't manage the clock, they played openly, and paid dearly for it. Even without winning, The 1982 team made history. It was a team that enchanted the world, that showed it was possible to play beautifully, that placed beauty above victory. In Italy, that team is revered to this day. Many Italian fans admit Brazil was more beautiful to watch. But in football, the most beautiful doesn't always win. Telê is remembered as one of the greatest coaches in Brazilian football, not just for his titles, but for his philosophy. It's for believing in talent, for resisting the power football style, for prioritizing the show. In 1982, he almost made it. But maybe the world wasn't ready for that Brazil. What if Brazil had held the draw? What if Rossi hadn't returned? What if Telê had made earlier changes? What if? These questions still echo in the minds of those who lived through that World Cup. But football is not made of ifs. It is made of moments. And the moment in 1982 belonged to Italy. The defeat in Sarriá changed Brazilian football. In the years that followed, Brazil became more concerned with results. Pragmatism returned. In 1994, Brazil won the title. But many say it won without shining. It won without the soul of 1982. That team left a lesson. The best doesn't always win, but the best can be remembered forever. Zico, Sócrates, Falcão, Júnior, Éder, Cerezo, Leandro. These names remain alive in the memory of fans, even without the trophy, because football is made of emotion, and no team brought more emotion than Brazil in 1982. The 1982 World Cup was more than just an early elimination for Brazil. It marked the end of an illusion. Brazil arrived in Spain not only carrying the label of favorite, but representing an ideal, a nearly romantic belief that beautiful football was enough to win. It wasn't just about winning matches. It was about proving to the world that the beauty of the game could triumph over pragmatism. That talent alone would suffice. The team, led by Telê Santana, symbolized that dream. It wasn't just technical, it was poetic. Players with tactical intelligence, exceptional skill, and a collective vision of the game. But amid the aesthetic praise, Brazilian football overlooked something essential: balance. The team was dazzling but vulnerable. It created chances but didn't kill games. It lived in the hope that goals would come naturally as a consequence of artistry, not strategy. When Brazil fell to Italy, many couldn't understand it. How could such a brilliant team lose to an opponent that only had one shining star that afternoon, Paolo Rossi? But that question says more about the Brazilian fans' expectations than about the match itself. Brazil didn't just lose to a striker in top form. It lost to a model of football that knew how to suffer, that was cold and efficient when it mattered. While Telê trusted improvisation and genius, Italy's coach Enzo Bearzot organized his team not to make mistakes. Italy wasn't dazzling, but it knew where to strike. It knew what to exploit. And Brazil didn't know how to protect itself from the opponent or from its own nature. It played as if tomorrow didn't exist, as if defending was dishonorable, as if playing for a draw despite the advantage was unacceptable. Some say the biggest mistake was not learning from 1974 or even from 1978. Football was already changing, and Brazil insisted on a model that seemed increasingly outdated. 1982, the team reached the peak of its philosophy, but also the limit of what that philosophy could achieve. It was too beautiful to be functional. It's pure to be champion. It's also important to consider decisions made on the pitch. Striker Serginho never truly fit into the team. He was a strange element in a refined ensemble. The slow reaction from the bench, delayed substitutions, the absence of a plan B. All of it contributed. But more than individual choices, what weighed most was the inflexibility of an idea, the almost blind faith that playing beautifully would be enough. The tragedy of Sarriá became a symbol not only of defeat, but of innocence. It wasn't just the end of a campaign. It was the end of a cycle. Brazil realized that in modern football, enchantment alone isn't enough. From that moment forward, there was a shift. In the following years, the national team became more practical, more cynical. And in 1994, Brazil won. But it won without the poetry of 1982. Telé's team is remembered fondly because it represents an era of purity, a time when victory wasn't the only goal, and beauty came first even if it cost the trophy. And perhaps, because of that, it became eternal. Because some victories die with time, and some defeats live on in history. The 1982 team was defeated on the scoreboard, but it triumphed in the imagination. In the end, maybe the question shouldn't be why they lost, but what we learned from that loss. The answer still echoes in stadiums, in bar conversations. In the memories of those who lived that World Cup, the 1982 Brazil reminded us that football isn't only about trophies. It's about soul. And that team, above all, had soul. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, activate the notification bell, and subscribe to the Brazilian National Football Team Forever channel. If you want to keep watching videos about the journey of the Brazilian national team, its highs and lows, victories and defeats, stay tuned. See you next time.